Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 22nd day of January. Another cold day around the country here, but we got some good hot sports topics to talk about here in the NFL. John Restano will be back 30 minutes be back on the program, 30 minutes past the hour. Going to talk about the national championship with him, get his thoughts on Ben Johnson to the Bears. The Bills moving on to the AFC Championship game again to play Kansas City at Kansas City on Sunday night, folks. Going to ask him about that. Also, the Titans introduced their new general manager. The Jaguars fired their general manager because nobody is interested even interviewing for that job, no head coaching candidate. So a lot to talk about tonight. Stand by. By the way, and the Jets found their new head coach. So let's take our first and only break. I'll be back here momentarily, and we will hit the ground running here on the Real Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to Sports, that is Sports with an S, another S, Scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program.
I'm Mac, CEO of National Streaming Sports and host of the Mac and Jack Sports Show. You're watching the sharp-dressed man and the big story breaker, Robert Butler, on Sports Scope, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern on National Streaming.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
All righty then. Great promo there by the folks at National Streaming Sports, Mac and Linda McGrath there. Okay. So the Tennessee Titans, they get a new general manager. Mike Borgonzi spoke today. Press conference there, had a few interesting things to say. A lot of it went trending on the internet, somewhat trending on the X app. I don't want to exaggerate it. But, listen, this guy's a 16-year assistant out of Kansas City, worked up through the scouting ranks. He works with the former general manager there. I want to say his name is this guy worked with John Dorsey. John Dorsey used to be the general manager of the Chiefs, had some issues. They fired him, but he's a really good eye for talent. Worked with Green Bay, also worked with Green Bay, the former, this guy that's the assistant that used to work at Green Bay as well. Both of them are working now. Borgonzi is going to pick the players, is what he said, words out of his mouth at today's press conference here in Nashville. listen, I know what a lot of people are saying, and the Titans don't pay me. I'm not auditioning for like where my man Rich works at the Titans flagship. If I think that the owner sucks, if I think the owner's no good, I'll say the owner's no good. You know, the Cincinnati owner's no good. He's terrible for the Bengals. But Amy Adams Strunk, this is the third general manager in 9 years. I simply think that she really is trying to get it right. She's trying to get the coaching staff right. She's trying to get the scouting right. She reminds me of the general manager or the owner that took over, the latest in the Ford family, who took over about 10 years ago. Look at where the Lions are today versus where they were back in 2008. I think she's paying off a lot of contracts. She's trying to get it right, okay? I commend this woman, actually, for that. And I think they may have their guy bringing in a former general manager assistant there from the Kansas City Chiefs, okay? He mentioned the fact that he everything's pretty much on the table is what he said today. He said, listen, there's a generational talent. We won't pass on a generational talent. And, of course, the NFL Network people rolled with that and assume, and rightfully so, I would agree, that maybe he's talking about drafting Travis Hunter over, knowing that Tennessee needs a quarterback, all right? In other words, he's not taking anything off the table. He also mentioned the fact that they've already – he was hired last week. The press conference was today. He also mentioned the fact that the phone has already started ringing about trading that number one pick. And this article I found here out of Fox Sports just reminded me back in 2016, the Titans had the number one pick when John Robinson first took over. They traded it 2 weeks before the draft to the LA Rams for a haul of netted a trio of all-pro tackle, a right tackle Jack Conklin. They didn't re-sign because of his injury history, but he was great when he was here and not injured, but he was all-pro at one time. And, of course, Derrick Henry and safety Kevin Byard. That draft helped the Titans sting 6 straight winning seasons and, of course, the AFC Championship back in 2019. That was just 3 years after that draft. I don't think that would be the case here. Let's see how it plays out for the quarterback situation. Of course, they had the number one seed back in 2020, 2021, you know. And he mentioned the fact you can't pass on a generational talent, like I just mentioned. So my thing is that all things are on the table. I said this weeks ago, I would not draft Travis Hunter. He wouldn't be my first option. If I draft Travis Hunter, that tells me that these quarterbacks, Cam Ward, Schroeder Sanders, are simply not top 5 first-rated top quarterbacks, which tells me they're going to do something else. They're not going to go in next season with Will Levis. Brian Callahan would be foolish to do that, okay? They're not going to go in next season with Will Levis, which tells me they would, you know, obviously free agency and the start of the new year comes before the draft. That starts in March. They would probably look at maybe getting a Sam Darnold or somebody, for example. And then, you maybe go with Travis Hunter. If you cannot trade this, ideally, if they're really sold that Cam Ward is not the guy and he don't want to show any of his cards, he wants to get every option out there. I still say with the 26 draft and the 27 draft, if the ownership and the organization can be patient there, those picks could be money for Tennessee. Those could be money. You could potentially in 27 get Arch Manning next year. And this is just off the top of my head. There's always a player that comes up out of nowhere. Nico could possibly from Tennessee, University of Tennessee, could be a big-time prospect. And, of course, Arch Manning in 27 could be a prospect. I don't think Manning is going to go next year, although he could. I don't think he's going to go with just 1 year of starting. You really want 2 full years of starting. But this is probably after they do the combine coming up. You're going to get pro days. He mentioned the East-West Shrine game. Then next week, which I was just reading, New Orleans has got all this snow, and the New Orleans reporter down there for the Saints said, we got to hope this snow gets out of here. By the time the Senior Bowl, we'll have to move the Senior Bowl. Well, that's in 2 weeks. New Orleans will probably warm up. All this snow will be gone by the time the Senior Bowl. So you got the Senior Bowl, you got the East-West Shrine. By the way, that apparently Rand Carthon didn't go to the Senior Bowl last year. So maybe some of that stuff was true, that this guy had work ethic issues, but this guy does not. And I do think that they've got a very good potential home run at general manager. And he's leaving and it helps when he got the number 1 overall pick. John Robertson looked like a genius when he had the number 1 overall, but you can screw up the number 1 overall pick. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see how this thing plays out. Again, I think this Amy Adams Strunk owner is doing what she can. She wouldn't be buying out. If she was okay with mediocrity, she would just sit back and let this thing play out and sit on her hands and not pay out any more contracts. So we'll see how it plays out, though. But so far, it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good for here, the Tennessee Titans. And technically, we are 92 days away from the draft. All right. Today's Wednesday. Tomorrow will be 91 days, which it's on a Thursday. So the draft will be here before you know it. We still have a lot of football to play before that happens. Of course, we've got the NFL New Year and free agency. Tennessee's got about $50 million in cap space, which they can make that 70. They can push that up to about 70, 80 million if they start moving and trading some players. Like I said, I would try to deal Jeffrey Simmons for a first-round pick and see if you can get another tackle or so, since they've already got T'Vondre Sweat there, if you ask me. But we shall see, Owuku Saki. Okay, an interesting story here out of Jacksonville. I mentioned this. Also, let me mention this about Tennessee. They did one more step that I think they should do, and they have fired this Colt Anderson, I want to say, the former special teams coach. Tennessee was one of the worst special teams at covering kicks in the league last year, and hired John Fossil, one of the better special team coaches. Not the best, but he's a lot better than what Tennessee had. John Fossil, that's the son of Jim Fossil. Went to the Super Bowl in 2000 with the New York Giants, but he's the former Cowboys special teams coordinator under Mike McCarthy. McCarthy's kind of hanging out there and not got a job yet, and fired Mike McCarthy. So Tennessee swoops in, gets John Fossil. I think they've simply got an upgrade there at special teams. I don't know if Callahan pushed for this. It looks like maybe the organization pushed for this. So I expect there to be some more changes. I would hope there would be more changes. Again, that defensive line, not up to par, and that linebacking core, they're way out of sync there. I would move off of linebacking coach and defensive line coach, So that is a story to monitor. Good pickup there by Tennessee with the new special teams coach here. So things coming together there here in Titanland. Now, here's an interesting I really thought this was an interesting story out of Jacksonville, folks. The Jacksonville has a franchise quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. They got a pass rush there. They got two pass rushers there, one being the other Josh Allen. that Josh Allen pass rusher. They have a left tackle they can rely on. They've got Travis Etienne and Brian Thomas. I told you Brian Thomas got over 1,200 yards, rookie wide receiver. Jacksonville was bad last year. His play down the stretch got overlooked, but I followed Brian Thomas. He's the other opposite receiver of Malik Neighbors. That tells you what kind of offense that LSU had last year. But I've been watching this Jacksonville job and watching it, thinking, man, is Flores going to go down there? Brian Flores, is Mike McCarthy going to take the job? Is Ben Johnson? And I'm not even, I follow the X out every single day, and I'm seeing nothing out of Jacksonville. And like I said the other day, Jacksonville, Sean Cohn or whatever, Mr. Khan, the owner, he let it be known that the new head coach will not report to Trent Baalke, that general manager down there, who I said not only did Jim Harbaugh have a problem with, Byron Leftwich would not take that job because he did not want to deal with Trent Baalke. And now it's came out today that Jacksonville has fired this general. I mean, how bad of a people's person that you have to be for the owner already saying, the man in charge already telling you that, telling your coworkers they don't have to deal with you. They don't have to deal with you. And they still don't want to be in the vicinity. They don't want to be in the same room with Trent Baalke. So it must be around the league here. That's not just a couple of people. And it turned out this guy's a real problem. So I don't know what kind of work he goes into after this. Maybe he needs to look within himself and say, man, I don't know what it is about people that I'm rubbing the wrong way. But he probably needs to be working by himself, probably in the film room or something, and just kind of report and do his scouting that way if he wants to stay in the game and the man wants to keep working. But apparently there is a problem with this Trent Baalke guy that nobody wants to work with him. So Jacksonville is now looking for a general manager as well. Joe Douglas is still out there, the former Jets general manager. He's had some big hits. He's had some misses now. Of course, he missed it. Of course, he won't have to replace a quarterback here. They've already got one, but he missed that with Zach Wilson there and Sam Darnold. But, again, I think this is a good job. I'm surprised that Mike McCarthy hasn't been the front runner. Now, as I speak, now that the news has come out this afternoon, Baalke's no longer going to be with Jacksonville. I wonder how many interviews are wanting to come down there for it. I thought maybe a Brian Flores would be a good fit down there. But we'll see. We'll see. I do think that we'll start to read on these NFL sites that Jacksonville's starting to become more of an attractive job there because they look like just a good head coach away, maybe a little help on the defensive front there. But they've got edge rusher, They need a good defensive coordinator. With a good offensive-minded head coach, in my personal opinion. Wink Martindale's still out there as a coordinator there. I want to say Cincinnati got the of course, I mentioned this yesterday. Cincinnati ended up getting the great coordinator there, Al Golden from Notre Dame. So good coaches out there. You just got to go out there and find them. And you can't have a guy that's running them off there. So interesting stuff there down in Jacksonville. Now the Jets. How dysfunctional does a job have to be? But, I've seen this before. Jonathan Gannon, this guy from Philadelphia, Jonathan Gannon gets hired from Philadelphia when the day after the Super Bowl, this is a couple of years ago, where they didn't get a stop. The Philadelphia Eagles did not get a stop in the second half. Okay, they did not get a stop in the second of the Super Bowl. which has got 115 million plus people watching, including other coaches and owners around the league. And apparently that Michael Bidwell, who's been on Hard Knocks before, is such a bad owner. He's got such a bad attitude, and that's a whole different story. That's widely reported that people don't want to work for him. Kind of like the Trent Baalke situation, except he's the owner. He's where the buck stops, which means so they had to hire Jonathan Gannon because I don't think anybody else wanted the job over there in Arizona. I say all that because Aaron Glenn, at times, that did not look like a good defensive coordinator. He had a good game against Minnesota. He had a terrible game, obviously, and a lot of that was with turnovers, due to turnovers. And, there one pick six, you can't put that on him. But they still gave up 38 points, Detroit did, against Washington. And you can say, well, he had injuries and whatnot. Glenn, not overly impressed with Glenn. To be honest with you, he didn't dominate as a coordinator. I thought he was on the verge of getting fired at times. The defense did get better, but he's a former player there. It goes to show you what Bill Belichick said hurt Woody Johnson. Bill Belichick on the documentary says he didn't care for Woody Johnson. Then on the Monday, and I mentioned this last week, I think, with Keith Engel on Monday Night Football on the Manning cast, he says, basically, he called him an idiot. He says the guy does everything out of order, ready, fire, aim. You look at some of the necklaces and stuff, he does look kind of like a grown-up kid that inherited a lot of money in Woody Johnson. So I don't think it's a great job. I ranked it as one of my lower jobs. I didn't have it as low as the Saints job, but they got a decent roster there other than they need a quarterback to eventually come in after Rodgers. But hiring Aaron Glenn there, I felt like that was just a guy who coached there. I don't think it's a great hire, especially after the fact you just moved off of a defensive-minded head coach there in Robert Saleh. So the standards and expectations for Jets football has just been down, and nobody's really pushing back. The other sports commentators I noticed, opinion hosts like me, not a lot of pushback there because I think that they realize, like your Colin Cowards of the world, that Aaron Glenn may be all is what Woody Johnson can get as a head coach. It's kind of like that Dallas job. Brian Schottenheimer, unimpressive, non-really hands-off offensive coordinator. That is, dad was a overly conservative. He's good at times in the playoffs. Overly conservative dad, and Marty Schottenheimer. He's being interviewed for the Cowboy job. They've got cap issues. Jerry's mule-headed. It's kind of like that with Woody Johnson. It's kind of like that with the Jets situation there. I'm just surprised that they would not go offensive. They end up going defensive. They may have just been going with somebody who just wanted to coach there. It's gotten to that point where you kind of know things are not going to go well as soon as a hire is made. Now, that being said, I said the same thing about Mike Vrabel. I wasn't really in love with Vrabel when the Titans brought him in. I accepted it when he brought him in. Of course, when he came here, I thought, okay, this guy's pretty good. Maybe they can do something, But I said it also about the D'Amico Ryans being a defensive-minded head coach. They hit gold there with C.J. Stroud and a pretty good very young, but pretty good offensive coordinator there. And Bobby Slowick there. So you got to hope that you can get a coordinator that can get along with Aaron Rodgers, and you got to hope that they can get you got to hope that they can somehow find another quarterback to be able to take over there for Aaron Rodgers. So it's if you're a Jets fan, you're pretty doom and gloom today, if you ask me. Not unless you hit a home run in the draft at quarterback. That's the only thing I can think of. You know, they're drafting too far back to get one in the first round. It's of any meaning. I doubt they're going to go back and bring in Sam Darnold. Maybe you get one in the second round that's going to sit under Rodgers. Maybe Rodgers just leaves all about, and you just lose all these games. They're too good to just be absolutely terrible. But I don't know if they're good enough and young enough to actually compete. So they're between a rock and a hard place. So if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, you're in pretty good mood today. And if you're a Patriots fan, you're in a good mood today. And Miami, I expect possibly a decision by next year to be done on Mike McDaniel if they don't win. And quite frankly, I don't think they're going to do anything either. So it is what it is. If you're a fan of the rest of the league, the NFC, AFC East is, other than the Bills, may be considered the AFC least, at least for one more year. And on that note, I've been wanting to talk some college football and some NFL with John Rostano backstage from Spitball Sports. He's got to be on cloud nine. He's had a birthday the other day, and his Buckeyes have won a national championship, and this Bears got a new coach here. John Rostano, everybody, if I could find the crowd here.
Hey,
John, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you, man?
Man, it's good to have you back on. I wanted to talk to you after everything had went down with Ohio State winning the national championship. What are your thoughts on the game itself? Looked like it was getting a little tight there at the end.
Yeah, they kind of did that against Texas too, I thought, right?
They did.
They let the pedal off the metal, I guess, a little bit, and they I don't know. It was weird, right? I mean, I don't even know how to explain it. I mean, I don't know what Notre Dame was doing. Why did they go for that field goal and not go for it? That was odd, that whole situation. I don't, I got to give Ryan Day credit. I don't know how many times I've been on your show, on my own show, complaining. I will say this, that loss to Michigan felt like a death blow. I mean, it felt like that was it. He did rein it all in. He did get those guys believing because things were tough there. I mean, think about all the nonsense that went on. They got pepper sprayed. Everything happened. And they...
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah. There was a big fight there in the middle of the field there with the logo thing and all that.
And they were getting pepper spray. And they pulled it together. So I give him credit, man. I always wanted him fired. And I don't know. I got to give him credit. I mean, you pulled it together with a group of guys. I mean... Yeah, I know. Here's the other thing, too, and I've been waiting to say this, so I get a chance now. Yes, they spent $20 million. I understand that. Caleb Downs, Judkins, the center from Alabama who got hurt early, that McLaughlin guy. But, you also got to spend, and Howard, right? Of course, the quarterback. But you have to also, I think some people forget, you have to spend money to keep your own guys, too. There's a lot of that. You have to keep your own players that you even recruit from leaving. So, man, I don't know. I can't believe the Michigan loss did that for them, though. I really thought it was. I thought it was over.
Yeah, I said the other day, he kind of reminds me. I'm glad you brought up the $20 million. You're managing 18 to 21-year-old kids that are getting $1 million contracts with massive egos. He's kind of reminding me of a Joe Torre of the Yankees, being able to manage that. Look at Jimbo Fisher. They had a lot of money spent on NIL from Texas A&M. The whole thing fell apart. Fisher ended up getting fired. So it's not as easy as it looks, John.
I don't think. Yeah, I mean, look at every year Ole Miss seems to have a good. They seem to have. He's like the king. He's the king of it. I mean, he's the king of NIL. He's the king of the portal. And can't we? And LSU is pretty. I mean, I don't know, man. What I need to see happen, I don't know what you think, Robert. They got to put a cap on this. They got to figure this out.
I think so, yeah.
Something's got to happen to make sure that this isn't, because right now it's just, you want to talk about the Wild West. I mean, you can do whatever you want. And I think you kind of got to fix this. And they talk about wanting a commissioner. You kind of got to fix it. I do agree with you, though, on the Joe Torre aspect of it. Because then you look at guys like, Sawyer. You do have some good character kids on there, it looks like, too. So
A lot of spiritual. They're not shy about any of that. They sound like a Southern team.
yeah, the
I was
way how
surprised by their openly about their faith and everything. Will Howard, some
yeah,
good
and
chemistry on Ohio State.
yeah, I mean Will Howard, I got to give him this too. What a big quarterback he is, and
6'4".
I don't know if he plays on Sunday ever, or maybe I don't know, but I'll tell you, for a college quarterback, at first I had thought, you know what, and I don't know why I'm forgetting his name, the kid who went to Syracuse. Shoot, I'm
Oh
forgetting
yeah,
his-
McCord. They used to play
McCord.
there. Yeah.
I was thinking, okay, with McCord, all right, maybe they didn't really do nothing. I think Howard was better than McCord, though. I will say, a couple times on your show, I said it. I don't know if really that was
Well, he has
really
better legs. He can run, man. Howard can run.
yeah, bigger kid and everything else. But look, I'm stunned. I'm glad. I mean, people like to say they didn't deserve to be there because they lost to Michigan. I don't know, man. Maybe they're right. Maybe in the old days they definitely wouldn't have been there.
The BCS, they would have been done.
Yeah, they'd have been done. So it's better now, Robert, but there's some things that we got to fix because I think you want to be able to get this a little more competitive still because you still don't want it to only be SEC and some Big Ten.
Right.
You know what I mean? And right now it's some Big Ten and pretty much almost all the SEC is still,
that's true, man.
The guys.
And I hope that they do something sooner than later. Nick Saban said the other day that I'll take an NFL job before I go back to college, and he was pretty blunt about it, man.
And I don't blame. I can see why.
Yeah,
because what you said, we're dealing with a 18, and these kids are coming already with big egos, right? If you're going to play for Ohio State or Alabama or these big schools, you've come from a place where you're the guy, even in high school, probably in junior high school. You're always the biggest guy in your school and maybe in your city or your county. Right. So you're already dealing with that. And then you're going to have to come up with $8 million to keep them. And yeah, I mean,
it's complicated, man.
You got a monster. Now, I will say this, one thing that's good though, if you're a good leader, and this goes back to some really talking back to guys like Saban.
Yeah.
If you're a real good leader and you're a good teacher and you're a good, you can create boys into men type thing, you can you might be able to save the NFL with them already having the experience with the money. They learn how to use the money. And then by the time they get drafted, it isn't such a big blast of, you know what I mean? Maybe there's a way to make a good thing out of something that I thought was bad.
That's true.
Sort of.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Get them more. And also, John, you keep them in college a year longer. Look at what we got going on with Washington and Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels, he's 24 years old, man.
And look at him. Yeah.
And you got the guy, Carson Beck, is transferring. He could have went to the NFL.
Good for him, too, I think, for Carson Beck. I think he did need another. He did, because this didn't end well. This just wasn't the way you wanted it. And I thought, and I guess I was way off. There was points where I was saying, I think he's the best quarterback in the country. I think he might be
he was considered the first overall pick.
Yeah, and I thought he's more ready. I'm glad he stayed. I thought Quinn Ewers would stay. I was kind of surprised that he didn't. Yeah. And there was some teams, I think Alabama, Ohio State, and they're offering, that was the $8 million, I think, to Quinn. So
he probably should have stayed, John.
I'm staying if I'm these guys. I'm not leaving yet because Quinn Ewers or whatever would have made more than Jaden Daniels, or Bo Nix, whatever, at this point, where they're at.
Nix is another one, played several years. They're using grad transfers and all, and I'm okay with that. I like it. And
that's interesting now because maybe that's why we don't need to have, we like to see, like we did in the past. Steve Young sat under Joe Montana for so many years. This guy, I guess we don't need to. Maybe we don't need to anymore because they're 24 years old already. So
right. And let me ask you this: you mentioned them losing to Michigan. Look how they dominated Tennessee. They handled Texas and Notre Dame. How good was Michigan's defense with that Graham? Was it Mason Graham? There's another guy. I think his name is also Will Howard or something. That cornerback for Michigan. They're supposed to be top 10 picks, and John, they might really be as talent-wise top 10 picks from the way they played Ohio State with no offensive players.
I know. I still say this. There's one part of that game and maybe some of the people out there didn't see the whole game. It's in the first quarter where Will Howard gets dinged up pretty good. He stays on the. He stays on the ground.
Yeah, that's true.
And I thought he had a concussion because there's no way, by the way he looked, the way he stood up.
Yeah.
I thought it was done because I kept saying, okay, Devin Brown's coming in, number 33. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I almost think they'd have been better off with Devin Brown because I'm going to tell you, I still believe, and they'd never admit this, of course, that there was something wrong there because they just stopped completely playing offense like they had all year. They were inside
the game plan. They wouldn't pass and set up the run no more.
They were inside the 15-yard line twice and could not do anything at all. He couldn't run no more. I don't know. It was the weirdest game. I would love to talk to. Actually, I guess Chip Kelly would be the one. I'd love to know what happened there because it makes no sense. Look how bad they beat Oregon. Holy cow. They
destroyed them, man.
After
it was over. I thought it was a misprint or something was wrong on my screen. I'm like, no, this can't be like 31-0 in the second quarter, man. God.
Yeah, what's up with Michigan?
Oregon beat them early this year.
And I wasn't a big fan of the Michigan head coach. I thought for sure I wasn't at all.
Oh, Sharon Moore, it's just total just disaster.
But what are they
They've got NIL money and stuff.
And and I guess he'll be there, obviously. I mean, of course, Harbaugh whenever these guys get up and leave in college, that's another thing. Those head coaches have to honor their contract. I don't think they should be allowed out.
Man.
They can't leave because once they leave, all the kids got to go with them, right? I mean, they're gonna. Right. Someone's not gonna want to go.
Left anyways, you know.
Yeah. So I mean,
perfect timing, really. Won a championship, you know.
We got to fix the thing a little bit. I don't know if I want to add extra teams. I don't know if I want to go to.
I don't like it. I don't like it either, John.
16. I mean,
a lot of those games wasn't as good as I thought they would be. I mean, that Boise State game with Penn State. Oh, give me a break.
There was no reason for that team to be. This is my other. There's no way that winning a conference should equal your seeding, right? Like in college basketball, if my Niagara University Purple Eagles win the MAC, yes, they're guaranteed a spot in the March Madness, but they're not. No, they're guaranteed a 15 or 16. That's what I think to do with Boise. Boise and Arizona State should be 11 and 12 in my mind.
Right, and those top 4 seeds with bye weeks, they shouldn't have to play at a neutral site. They should play at home.
Yes, and no more with conference finals. I'm done with it. No more conference championships.
Oh man, I love the conference. I don't know.
I do too, but they got to meet. You got to make them mean. Like Notre Dame.
That's true.
They just don't play one. So Notre Dame doesn't have to, because then you bitch, people will complain about, they lost and you're going to reward a loser. But Penn State lost. So I'm going to reward a loser. But how am I rewarding someone who doesn't even have to play in one?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't like that.
That's interesting. I'll say this, though. The fact that they beat Georgia, and then they turn around and beat Penn State, and they looked like they were coming back. They had a second gear against Ohio State. Man, they got to have one well of a strength and conditioning coach up there at Notre Dame. The guy's name is Lawrence something. And I thought, man, if I'm Tennessee, I would pay that guy double what he's making and get him to come down here.
Right. Well, did you see I think Plaxico Burress' son is on his way there, and so is Jerome Bettis' son.
Man, that's we're getting older.
I know we are. Yeah,
it seemed like it was just yesterday they were playing, man.
So think about them. I got to assume I have yet to see all these kids are always good. Their fathers played, and we always see them on Sunday. Wow. So I think Notre Dame is probably they're going to be better next year. I do like their head coach. The only thing is, I'm sorry, if they do not get into a conference, I don't know what you do with them. I don't know how can.
That's true. Put them in the ACC or something, or put them in Big Ten. They play a lot of they play USC every year practically, and the USC's in the Big Ten. So
either that or ACC seems to be right. That's where basketball went. So they have to be on one because I don't know how you can. And then again, and Nick Saban said it, who's one of my favorite people on the ESPN show now.
Yeah, me too.
I know, because
he curses about every week, though, don't he?
Yeah. He said that why do I play anyone anymore? If I don't want to play, my non-conference games are going to be so I don't give a damn. No longer.
Yeah, he did say, and something, he did make a good point. I'd much rather send 2 SEC teams in Boise State. Now Arizona's okay, but still, I would much rather see those SEC. I'd love to see Ole Miss in there.
Listen, you could have put Ole Miss with Jackson Dart. You give me Alabama. You give
even Alabama with their bad loss. So,
hell, you could even throw LSU and any one of them would have been much better to watch Penn State play Alabama than Penn State play Boise. It was just it was goofy.
Was not good, man.
I mean, I get Arizona State. They both. You know what? Look, Arizona State's fine. They shouldn't have been a bye. Texas really had them beat until that craziness had happened. Scat boo. But I don't know. They're gonna have to fix it.
They've been needing to regulate those schedules before they even had the playoff, Chad. I mean, that's a good point. It's a very good point. Can Ohio State repeat?
Well, their quarterback's the kid from Alabama. I think his last name is Justin Sayin or something.
Okay.
Is the one that they 5-star from Alabama that they brought over. But who knows, right? Because I don't know what he's going to be like. I know they were interested in Carson Beck from everything I've read. And Quinn Ewers.
Now, this new transfer thing starts off in April. So a lot of stuff. I started reading about Ohio State last April when they started getting all those transfers. And then I started reading into them like, okay, yeah, I think they're going to win the national championship. So
now is that
big, man?
That's changing, right? Aren't they going to go back? Aren't they talking about only having a 10-day period in January or something?
They talked about it, but last I checked, it's April 15th.
Yeah.
So you got tax day and they got transfer. Tennessee needs 2 defensive tackles. I don't know where they're going to come up with the money, but they need some help in the middle. So.
Were you surprised at how bad they played? In Columbus, I was too. I was trying to tell some people because everyone said, they beat Tennessee, like they made it like that game. I said that to me, and I was stunned that was the game after Michigan. I didn't think that was going to be easy. The game now, the quarterback, maybe it was pretty cold up there. It was a cold night.
And he's just a true freshman, by the way.
Yes. So
Nico is very young, and Tennessee's very thin on the defensive line. They couldn't get any pressure on Beck against Georgia. They couldn't get any pressure on Howard. And they lack a power element to their game. They got everything else. They got speed. Yeah. James Pierce is going to be a first-round pick. Tennessee's got some great players, but they're not deep enough, and they got to get thicker in the inside there, like a Michigan has, like a Jalen Carter used to play for Georgia. Now he's with the Eagles. So that's their problem. They couldn't get any pressure up the middle, and you guys did a really good job blocking them. And that thing was over with midway through the second quarter. I stopped watching it.
Yeah.
So, but I'm just glad I beat Carlos because he picked Tennessee, and I said, no, I'm rolling with Ohio State, even though, it is what it is. Man, I got to get your thoughts here. What do you think about Ben Johnson taking the job with the Bears and a possibility of Dennis Allen being the defensive coordinator, John?
Well, those are good names, right? Dennis Allen when I heard that's good. I heard about that the guy from New Orleans, Rizzi, coming to do the special teams.
Okay, nice.
Trying to get the offensive line coach from Detroit coming to be the offensive coordinator for the Bears. What's his name? Gosh, I wrote it down. What's his name? Hank Fraley. They also talked about Mark Brunell maybe coming as the offensive coordinator for the Bears with him. Look, Ben Johnson. It's funny. I've had it with the Bears and their coordinators, right? They've had them, Tressman, Nagy, on and on, Eberflus.
That's true.
So with this guy, I was at one point I wanted Mike McCarthy. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I don't even want this guy.
That they probably should have went with.
So now Ben Johnson comes, right? And everyone. So I'm listening to everything. Old Olin Kreutz from the Bears. I like what he talks about. He's pretty good. And he's talking about, about Johnson. And it sounds great. I mean, the details, the whole thing. Here's what I like about him. This is his plus for me. Eberflus did not want Cliff Kingsbury on his. He didn't want him. He did not want him. And from what I've been reading out of the
security thing, why?
Yeah, insecure because he's another coach. He knew he could be replaced. Ben Johnson doesn't seem to care because he's bringing Dennis Allen with him. So, or thinking about it. So I feel like he's very secure. You know, the Bears had some work to do, right? They got $70 million and they got some draft. But their center and their two guards are really bad. You look at what they had in Detroit, though, you know, they had Ragnow.
Offensive line there, yeah.
Really good. So, things change, right? I mean, I don't know how. I just wonder what, and they're smart, right? They know what they're doing, but it just makes you wonder. This is where I don't know what to do with coordinators because, okay, yes, in Detroit, everything was pretty good. You know what I mean? Everything, but it wasn't always good. I know it 2.5 years ago, it wasn't great.
Right.
But he's coming into a place that, do we really know? Sadly, again, the Bears don't know. And I hate to say this. Maybe I'm wrong. You could tell me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I really know what Caleb Williams is yet. I still don't know. I think I know. But do I know like Washington knows about Jaden Daniels, like Denver feels about Bo Nix?
Right.
No. I don't know that yet with him. I'm not sure. He got sacked 70 times. But, half of them were probably his fault, too. Because
he held on to the ball and he always wanted to go off script almost every other play.
So, I mean, I don't know. But again, the Bears don't know that. But I think the hire's good. I mean, I am so beaten down being a Bears fan with coordinators because they always feel like you want the leader of men that everyone's saying. And I know the Bears need that because they're out of control a little bit. Maybe he is. I don't know. Caleb Williams was very excited. He was on a podcast with Amon St. Brown, and he was he was saying what he wanted, basically saying it. Yeah. And Amon St. Brown was saying, no, he's not going. It was a funny thing. But look, he's got him now. Caleb has him.
Yeah.
Here's what you do. And I heard this on one of the radio stations in Chicago. I can't remember who said it, but here's what I agreed with them. Now get rid of all the people that are your private coaches. Get rid of all your private handlers. Get rid of everybody and just listen to Ben Johnson. Don't worry about.
He'll be calling the plays, John?
Ben? Yeah. I'm guessing he does to start. It reminds me of what happens up here in Buffalo with McDermott. He finally gave up the defensive calls, but for a long time he was doing it. I think Johnson I can't imagine he comes and puts his reputation out there and not, what I mean, be the one who's really calling it. Big thing will be quarterbacks coach and that offensive line situation. The Bears have been criticized about their offensive line. All their coaching staff was criticized, the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
So here, I'll give you that.
The better offensive lines have come from teams with offensive-minded head coach, according to these Pro Football Focus rankings. So you just got to Eberflus he really dropped the ball. I'm surprised they kept him. Like you said, they could have went after Harbaugh last year.
And the McCaskies, I complain about the ownership all the time. I'll give them this. They got the guy that everyone wanted. The Raiders wanted him. Everybody wanted him. They spent the $13 million to bring him in. All right, good for them. I mean, maybe
if they bring in Allen, like you said,
Kevin Warren looks to be somebody that has been able to get the McCaskies to, because you know what, a McCaskey hire in the past, if it wasn't the second or third choice coordinator, it would have been Ron Rivera. Or it would have been possibly.
That would have been terrible. At least you're not the Jets getting Aaron Glenn.
Yeah, I don't think. And Pete Carroll wanted it so bad. I almost felt sorry for Pete Carroll.
He said he thought it would be okay for Pete Carroll, and I said, "No, Pete, you need an offensive-minded guy." I think if he brings in Dennis Allen, like Sean McVay years ago when he first started there, very young guy, hired Wade Phillips, everything changed for the Rams on both sides of the football. With that 10th overall pick, you can plug a right tackle or left tackle in there. With either the guy from LSU will probably be available or the one from Texas.
Yeah.
I say if they get Brown as a defensive coordinator and if they get that tackle, I think they'll make the playoffs next year. I really do. I think they're that good defensively, man. And look at all those players on offense.
Yeah. I looked at Ryan Poles. This is a big year for him because, it is. Again,
All that money,
I don't.
you still got a lot of money too, you know.
$70 million to spend. Now, Ben Johnson, I think, from all reports, he didn't come to Chicago to not be a part of all that. Like, he's going to be a part of who comes here and who doesn't, as far as, even definitely free agents, probably draft wise. And I hope so, because one thing he has proven is he knows the offensive line has to be good. And he knows you have to run the ball too and do play action. Now, Caleb Williams is terrible under center. When he's under center, he looks absolutely awkward. Somehow you got to fix that a little bit, and I'm sure you can. That's why I'm saying Caleb Williams needs to get rid of all the people around him. No more private coaches. No more, this is my guy from here, this guy from there. Just go with Ben.
He needs to humble himself. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And get with Ben Johnson and only do what he wants you to do, which I'm not saying. I just think there was no respect. Eberflus wasn't that, and look at the coordinators they had. I mean, it was a circus. They got this close. They have one more chance to make it right, before we end up saying, oh, my God, we're on the 5th-year option already. What do we do? Because we don't know what to do. So you can't have that again.
Yeah, I mean, Detroit could take a step back, possibly Green Bay, or maybe not Green Bay, but maybe Minnesota. I don't know. They're on the come up, man. I mean, you saw how close a lot of those games were. You know?
Well, you wonder if they didn't do what they did against the Commanders. Who knows? If they could have won that game, they're 5-2 going to Arizona. Instead, they're going to Arizona 4-3, and Arizona just killed them. And then the Patriots killed them. And then we went through that stretch, through Thanksgiving where they played all their division, and they lost every game by a last possession. So,
Yeah,
it was for the bet. The only thing I wish they would
games that really hurt them. Yeah,
I really wish they'd have lost the last game of the season. That was a waste of time because the draft would have been better to move up. And again, Green Bay. I said this on my other podcast. I don't know why they didn't take that game seriously because I'd have rather have gone to Tampa than go to Philadelphia. It's very odd to me how they played that game.
Jack
very
Collins quoting Tupac, "All eyes on Caleb."
I think he's good, right? But what do we really know? It's hard to say after what you saw this year. Jury's out for me. I think he's better. He's definitely. You know what hurt me about him, and you've seen him play in it, and I don't know why all of a sudden he couldn't hit a long pass. Guys wide open, he would throw bullets over their head. Like it was
Especially
really
when
weird.
You got Rome Odunze with those long arms,
Not until the last game of the season did he finally throw one up for Odunze to go catch, and he did. Just like you would figure, toss it up there and let him get it. Before he was throwing bullets over these guys' heads. And that was kind of disconcerting to me. I wasn't sure what that was all about, but I think it was, honestly, he was a little bit happy, like punch drunk, like the hits and the stuff and the running. I think a lot of him going off script was because too, when I'd watched those, like I told you before, I watched the footage after the game where you see the whole field and Keenan Allen's covered. I mean, look, he's not doing anything. He really shouldn't be on the Bears next year. If they want to take another step, he's a
wasted 4th-round pick. Although he had some moments last year.
Nah,
you got Odunze, you're fine.
The moment I remember is when he refused to block. That was like Chase Claypool to me.
Is that what he did?
There was a play coming. He went like this. He didn't block anyone. He just stood there. He did what Claypool did. And I'm like, oh my God,
you're really childish. Yeah. Yeah, that was another drop by Poles. Man, I got to ask you, what do you think about the Bills-Ravens game? I mean, what a great game, man. Almost perfect game they played against the Ravens.
I don't understand why the Bills were the underdog in that game to start with. That was really weird. First time the Bills ever, since 1960, whatever, were at a playoff game home on underdog. So I don't know why the Ravens... Maybe
they used that for motivation. Think about it, though.
They did.
Ravens had 3 turnovers, and it was a 2-point game.
There was Tyron Johnson. Because on my Bills show that I do, we get the guy who covers the Bills for the Niners.
Yeah, that guy's good, yeah.
He comes, and he was telling me about how he was talking with Tyron Johnson, and I can't remember Lewis, the other defensive back, and he brought it up to them, and they pretty much said, it is something. We'll see, is pretty much what they were saying. So they were aware that they were what they were. I don't know why they were, because it made no sense to me. The Bills let off the gas, though. They got to be careful. I don't know why they did that in the second half. They came out. I figured it was 21-10. They got the ball and they would have tried to score. Instead, they were doing weird, like tight end screens and stuff that they gave them a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you saw it at the end to come back and win overtime. And Lamar, by the way, there is playoff Lamar that just isn't good. He's just not. I'm sorry.
I think he's like Peyton Manning. He clinches too much, man. And if you look at Manning didn't get his first playoff win to year 5, John.
Right.
Remember that Chad Pennington game with Peyton Manning?
Yes.
Where the Jets just beat the crap 41-0.
Yeah.
He's a lot like Manning. He loves football. He may get his 3rd MVP, although I think Josh Allen should get it this year.
Right.
I mean, 1 Pro Bowl for Allen, John, and 8 Pro Bowlers for Lamar with the Ravens.
It makes no sense, man.
They have a great team, man, and
Yeah, I think the Bills were. I'll give them this. They lost some player. Well, they lost Diggs, but the group from being up here. Yeah, that team knows a team. They really are. I give McDermott credit. He's been given a lot of garbage.
Yeah, they all did a good job. Joe Brady, that was a masterpiece running the ball on that deep. I have so much respect for the Ravens. Their run defense is so good. It's like 13, 14 yards better than Minnesota, which is 2nd run defense in the league. It's like running against a brick wall, man. You have to run at angles where they who was it? Cook and Ray Davis. There was perfectly timed draw plays there. It was a very well-coached game. They only had 1 penalty, and that was questionable.
Yeah, and that one wasn't even a hold. Yeah, I saw that
one. It wasn't even a hold against Deion Dawkins.
But, I mean, they are it would not surprise. Actually, I believe they're going to win this week. I think they're going to go to. I think this is the time.
I'm leaning them. Is there any injuries of concern on the defense? Because remember, this time last year, they had a ton of injuries.
Yeah,
and they still almost beat Kansas City.
Yeah, no Milano, no Bernard. Because last year they had AJ Klein who came in off the couch.
That's who it was. Got him off the couch.
Yeah, and I mean, they really. I mean, all the game, they're 0-3 against them in the playoffs, but every one of them was the 13 seconds, a missed field goal, 27-20, all that stuff.
Oh, nail biters.
If they don't win, I'll be surprised. I got to say, I'd be surprised. I feel like it's just, if they don't win, I think it's going to be this would be a heck of a kick in the gut to them, because I think they are, I mean, I hate to say they're the better team, because honestly, I thought they were the better team over Baltimore as I looked at it. I mean, I know Baltimore has the name and maybe some more players in different spots, but team-wise.
I thought Baltimore beat them. With that defense and just. I'm glad,
Allen,
though. I wanted Buffalo to win. I'm tired of it.
Allen is really he is, I don't know how a guy like him could be underrated, but when you think about what you're looking at with him, he only's been sacked 14 times, but a lot of that's because of him. You can't he is he's Roethlisberger with talent, with more athletic ability.
He's Elway of this era, man.
Yeah, and it's almost like there's no one else that is like him. There's not another quarterback. If I'm the Bears and you gave me a list, I'm choosing him to be my quarterback right now. Over Lamar even. I don't really
absolutely over Lamar.
I don't know.
He has a ring if he plays with that Ravens roster.
He does, and he's think
pushing Mahomes really hard.
I think that this is the year they're going to win. I really do. I think, and I don't know about the Super Bowl. It depends who they play. If they play the Eagles, interesting matchup there.
I got to ask you that one. Does Jalen Daniels have a shot in this Commanders team to beat the Eagles on Sunday?
Yes, I think they have a shot. I really do. I know Hurts is a little banged up, his knee or something.
Yeah, he's got that. Yeah, I wonder. He's wearing a brace the other day, and he's limited today in practice.
Look at it. You got to I know this is easier said than done, but it's Barkley. Yeah. You stop Barkley. I don't think Jaden Daniels cares. He's not scared of any moment.
Right.
Even against the Falcons, everything was on the line, and he threw that touchdown pass I'm going to tell you what, I think they could win. And then, of course, it's the 3rd time they've played. It's a rivalry. They know each other pretty well. I think Dan Quinn is better. I always think of Dan Quinn and Dan Campbell. I think Dan Quinn I think Dan Quinn, I like the stuff he does when he does it, where Dan Campbell, I think like it's a little more goofy. I think Quinn, I don't know, and I can't believe I'm saying this because I didn't like Quinn in Atlanta, but I like what's going on there. I mean, how is Jaden Daniels? I mean, you know what it's like. This guy, he's beyond CJ Stroud in my mind. I mean, this kid.
He is. Yes. Yeah. And here's another thing. He's got the best quarterback rating, most touchdowns as a rookie in the fourth quarter in the history of the game, 12 or something during the regular season, 72% completion percentage in the fourth quarter. And also, he's 24 years old, so he's not no rookie quarterback has ever went to the Super Bowl. But there's a lot of second-year guys who've won the Super Bowl. Ben Roethlisberger, starting quarterbacks. Russell Wilson, Tom Brady. Those guys are around 24 years old. So age-wise, this is not a big deal to him. It's just the fact that it's his first year in the league. I would love to see them beat the Eagles. I picked up this woman that's making balloons for the Eagles. She's real arrogant today, working Uber on the way home. And I thought, man, I would love to see them beat the Eagles. Although, if the Eagles get back to the Super Bowl, I'll have Jamie Pags, Philly sports guy. Hopefully, he won't hear this. But
could I see it? Yes. Do I think? I want to see what the weather's going to be like. That'll be interesting.
Right. You kind of got a feeling Barkley's going to run all over that 30th ranked defense.
Yeah, but they didn't do so bad. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what to say. I think was
there a distraction with Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn? The reason why they did not run the ball more in Detroit, and that's why it's not Detroit hosting this thing.
Right. And I also think the bye is very long for these teams. Yeah. I think that Detroit and that Kansas City hadn't played since Christmas, pretty much.
And they still handled Houston.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you though, there's something I don't know. I think
you got a really good shot to beat them. Yeah, really good shot.
I think they do because all year long, Kansas City's been kind of, in the season, it's been pretty. Then they had those 2 good games right during the Christmas break over Pittsburgh. Well, I think Pittsburgh was already kind of going down the tubes.
Reeling, yeah.
And then it was Houston, right? They beat them too. And I thought the Houston game was closer than it should have been. And I think I don't
think Dale got hurt. I think
I don't see a path. I can't believe I'm saying this. I don't know if I see how the Chiefs win this week. I really don't. Unless the Bills start turning the ball over, which they haven't done yet in the play. They haven't done it. They haven't put the ball on the ground or interceptions, nothing. So they've been near perfect.
There was a 9-point game last time. I have to check the injury report. I don't think Chiefs had a lot of injuries in that game, did they?
I don't think so either. I mean, they have what do they have? Hopkins, they have Hollywood Brown, and Worthy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that like gives the Bills anything really to worry about other than, well, the running game. I don't know. Kelsey, of course, but he's
100 in football years.
Yeah, they are ready to be beaten. If the Bills don't do it, then that's going to be something up here for them to really deal with.
Because a 4th-round pick from Kansas City from the Hopkins trade.
That's not bad.
That's what they're thinking. They want to add that to the,
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be good for Tennessee. And they got the 5th round from Kansas City, but if they get back to the Super Bowl, he's already played at 60% of the snaps. He hasn't done a lot with them.
Right.
But Worthy's a heck of a player. Hollywood Brown's been back for a few weeks, but he's still not done anything. That's going to be a great game. It's going to come down to probably one possession. Do you think the refs are going to be – and I got Jason Patterson. He covers the Chiefs on tomorrow from Pigtail Nation.
Oh, nice.
Do you think the refs are going to call this tightly, or they're just going to let them play because they're starting to get a lot – they're hearing that heat about it seems like they're a conspiracy to help Holmes out and keep them in the Super Bowl.
I would think that they're going to let them play. That would be my guess. I think you want to
unless it's over the top blatant.
Like even the game against Baltimore, I don't think either team had a lot of penalties, right? It was kind of like maybe 2-2 in penalties or 2. I don't know what it was, but it was really, you kind of got to let them play. I mean, I think there was a couple pass interference that I think Baltimore got away with in my mind, but either way, I mean, that's not bad. It's just, it's so hard for me with the Chiefs and how to, like, I hate the conspiracies, right? I hate it. But
it's like every big game they're in.
I know.
Man.
I know. So
And
I don't
you're
know.
right. I think it's probably this is what it is. I think that they just got so much concentration on them right now because they're on top, and you know how it is, man.
And there's no doubt. I think this year, from what I've been hearing, who would you want to see? Do you really want the Chiefs back in there again against the Eagles?
No,
do you really want to see that again?
I want to see Washington and Buffalo.
Holy cow!
92 rematch.
Wow.
Mike Ripken versus Jim Kelly. That's the first Super Bowl I ever watched all the way through, man.
Oh, those were some tough times. I'll tell you, up here, those 90s were something else. But I mean, I think this team is better. There's not that team like in the 90s. There was always Dallas. There was always somebody in the NFC
or whatever. Yeah.
This year, there's no one in the NFC. I think that really they get past Kansas City. They got to win. I mean, I just think it would be Buffalo.
To see Buffalo win now that, especially since Detroit's out.
Yeah,
Buffalo would be my favorite. That would be awesome, man. That would be really cool. John Restano, when are your show times for spitballing, man? Anything changed?
No, real quick. Friday night, 6 p.m. I'll have the Bills.
That's Eastern
reporter,
folks.
Eastern time, 6 o'clock on Spitball and Bills podcast. Tomorrow night on Spitball and Sports, Gridiron Weekly. Me and the guys will be on. We'll be talking about everything college and pro football from 7 to 8 o'clock Eastern.
Woo! John
Restano,
everybody. Yes.
And then we can lead right into you.
Lead right into me. I'll have Jason Patterson on tomorrow, and I'm going to grill him on can Kansas City beat Buffalo.
I can't wait. Yeah, that'll be good.
All right, John, everybody, let's have a round of applause. I'm going to be back tomorrow with Jason Patterson, like you heard. Have a good night, everybody. Also, if you like the show, please share the show. Thank you.